good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us from today. My name is Omolola Alfred, and I am a business application developer and also a business application Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. I am so delighted to welcome you guys to day three of Power Apps Beginner Course. We know that Power Apps Beginner Course is a 8 days training, and today is day three. We have learned so much, and today we are diving deeper. All right, guys, let us know where you are joining us from today. Okay, wherever you're joining us from, let us know where you're joining us from today. Let us hear you and know exactly where you are joining from. Okay, where are you joining us from? Where are you joining us from? Where are you joining us from? Let's get to hear you. Okay, so I see Zoe from okay, so Zoe is saying thanks in advance. Okay. I think that was yesterday. So I see Deji. Oh, we have people already joining. Come on guys. Deji is joining from well, Lagos. Okay, I see Emmanuel from Lagos. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so I have somebody. So I have pals from Lokoja. I have somebody from Accra, Ghana. I have somebody from UK. Come on, guys. One of the things you can do is go to your social media and tell everybody that we are live so that we can be more. We have somebody from India. So, my colleague and friend David is ready to, take us deeper into the world of app development. We have Janaki from India. Come on, guys. Throw to your social media. This course is actually free for everybody. So go to your social media and help tell people to join us. That's one of the ways that you can actually, help other people. Tell people to join us so that we are not learning alone. All right. So the class has started and we have more people joining us. Yes. Joshua is joining from Lagos, my Lagosians. Yes. So do well, go to your social media. Before I bring David on, let's just give 2 more minutes. By exactly 7:05 we're going to start, so I'm going to go ahead now and throw in our advertisement while I wait for you guys to go tell other people that we have started, and I and David, we are here ready to take you guys deeper into Power Platform development. Yes. Yes, yes. Where are you joining us from? Where are you joining us from? Where are you joining us from? I am happy to onboard you guys. Go ahead, tell other guys that we are here and we are ready to start our day three Power Apps developer training. All right. Thank you, guys. And we are ready to start. So, to take us in today's training is David Adeniran, somebody that we have all met right from day one. Hello, David. How you doing? How is your side? Are you ready to take us into this training?
Yes, Amola, thank you very much. Yes, I'm doing very well. I'm happy to be here. This is day three. It's been exciting so far, and today we're just going to go even deeper into Power Apps. Today we're going to be we're going to build forms. We're going to look at how to allow users to submit data into our apps, into our database. It's going to be very exciting. I can't wait to start. All right. I know that so we have guys all the way from Ghana, from UK. That's exciting again. As Amola said, please try to share the links to everybody just on your social media posts that we're starting now. All right. Okay. I have someone from South Africa. Hello, from South Africa. Welcome. Okay. All right. So we'll start from where we stopped yesterday. So yesterday, Omola was taking us on some app development, just an introduction, and we're working on local techies. So local techies is, let's say, a fictional company. So we're building a request app for our fictional company, right? It's called Local Techies. So again, if you remember, this is the opening page. You can remember the beautiful image that was added yesterday. This is the name of the organization. So that's like the welcome page. All right. So if you remember yesterday, we introduced a timer control. If you look at the timer navigation, where after a couple of seconds, it transitions us to the next screen, right? So now, if you remember, if I click on play, after about 5 seconds, we'll go to the next screen. So that way, the users are, welcome in. Now, if you remember yesterday, right, in the last class, on this particular page, because we're on Omolola's um, system on a laptop, it was a picture that was here. It was also a name that was here, but now this is my name. And if you remember very well, we used the user object, right? So if you look at this image, if you click on it, and if you look at the formula bar at the top, you can see user.image. And I know that we showed us that yesterday. For the name, you can see that there's user dot full name. There is a ampersand sign there. Don't worry, we'll talk about that at a later time. But basically, the user dot full name is just a way to get the current user's full name. So these are just the easy way to do that. So it's a nice touch so that when users log into our app, they can see their name, can welcome them. Hello, Joshua. Hello, James. Hello, Tobias. Whatever. No, you see your name there. So it's just a nice touch. Okay, so today what we're going to do today is that again we're going to continue from last time. We built a small SharePoint list last time, and today we're going to connect it to our app, right? So I'm going to build a form to allow users to be able to fill information and submit it into our SharePoint list. Now, we're using SharePoint list for this app, but we do have other data sources. So we'll dive into the data source at a later class. There are other data sources like Dataverse, SQL, but we also have SharePoint list. So for this course, we'll be using SharePoint list, but we have the other types of data source. So SharePoint list is the most common type of data source used with Power Apps. So that's why we're using SharePoint list. All right. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to, for now, we'll get back to these two text box, which we're working on the last time. So let me just hide them. Now, if you want to select to just a tip, you want to select control at a time, you could hold the control button down on your keyboard and you select the first one and select the second one, right? So just a tip. Now I've selected both of them. I want to hide them because I want to be able to work with them later. So what I'm going to do now is to click on the visible. I'm going to turn it off. So that's turned off their visibility. So I can also still move them, right? So I'm going to move them down here just for now. We'll get back to them later. All right. Now we have a fairly plain screen to work with, right? So what Mola called our kitchen, right? So we can cook. All right, okay. So now, if you look at this left panel here, we have a couple of things here. One of them was the media, which Lola showed us yesterday, where we were able to import an image. If you click on the media, you can see that the image is still being imported here. But one of these other places is called data, right? It has a cylinder icon, right? So it's called data. Now, what does this represent for us? Well, this represents where we can get and connect data sources, right? So data sources are places where, well, as the name implies, where there are sources of data that we can interact with our app, right? So that might include a Dataverse table, that might include SQL database, that might include a SharePoint list, that might also include your OneDrive folder, right? So if you have a cloud OneDrive folder, you can connect it to your app. That might also even include Excel, and so many other ones. In fact, if I come in here and I click on add data, we have quite a lot of them. Now we're going to talk about data sources and connectors at a later class, but if you look at this place, you see connectors. When I expand it, you can see a list of connectors, right? You can see Excel, Microsoft Graph, Outlook, for instance. Yes, you can make your app send an email, for instance. Right? You can have Office 365 users. So this is where you get users in your organization. If you want to look for anybody in your organization, right, you can also use this connector, right? So these are data sources that you can use. So for now, we're going to use SharePoint. Now, currently, already I have it connected to my app. Lola showed us yesterday how that is done, so I don't need to go over that again. So we already have the Learning Canvas app as our data source. So now we want to build a form to connect to that data source. So why? So that when our users open the app, they can see a form where they can put in information, and that information is captured in our data source. All right. So how do we do that? Now let's close this a bit, right? So now we're back to our kitchen. So what can we add to the screen? Now let's add a form. So if you go at the top here, you can see insert. So when you click on insert, you will see a list of controls, some common controls. One of the most common control actually is what we call the edit form. Can you see that? The edit form. So when you click on the edit form, right, you would be able to add the edit form into your screen. Now, so the edit form is on the screen. Currently, it's not showing anything, but don't worry, it will still show some things now. So let us move it to a place different because you can see the blue border is indicating where the form is currently located. So we can move it down a little bit. So let's move it to here. All right. So now, what do we do? So if you look at this part, I don't know if I can zoom in a bit. It says the form isn't connected to any data yet, right? So currently the form is not connected. So the form is just there, it's not connected. At this point in time, it's not very useful. But for it to be useful, we need to connect it to a data source. So it says connect to data. So if you click on this button, you can connect to data. So when we do that, that gives us our data. So you can see that that data panel opens again, right? So normally we could have multiple lists of data sources here, but currently we only have one, right? So just pick the one we have, which is the Learning Canvas app. So let's pick that. Okay, so that's okay. Let's try that again. Okay, so another alternative, I don't know why it's not picking from there, is that we can go to the right pane. So in the right pane, we have data source. So you can just select this drop down and pick it from here. All right, so now we pick the data source. So again, just again, talking about the studio, we for every control, right, we can either control it from the top left corner, right, where you have a drop down of controls, or you can go to the right pane where you have some other view. Okay, so now we have some controls on our screen. So you can see I have a form now. Okay, so let me close this place. Okay, so we have the form in our screen. Now, I'm going to show you the data source a bit, right? If I go to this tab, we have the SharePoint data source. Now we have about four columns actually. We have the title column, we have the description, we have the request column, and we have the device type. Now, I talked about data types and we'll talk about data types later. But even in our data source too, there is a sense of data types too that we need to understand because again, there are different types of data and we need to be able to work with them in a different way. So if you look at this title, it says it's what we call a single line of text. What does that mean is that it allows us to put simple text like your name, the name of a department, etc., something like that. Description is a multi-line text column. We'll talk very much more on SharePoint later, but I just want to talk about that. So description is multi-line text. What that means is it allows us to put long form descriptions. So let's say you want to talk about something like a text post or a small blog or a small article, this data type is good for it. So it's called the multi-line text. Actually, let me just look at show you that a bit. Um, so if you come in here, you have a you can see it's multiple lines of text. So it's a type. So if you click on this, you can see there are other types. So we have single line of text, multiple line of text. We have choice. So choice allows you to have like a drop down, which is quite similar to what I have right now, like a drop down, something like this where you can pick a choice. That's choice. Then we have number, then we have currency, and we have the date and time. Right. So those are some of the column types in SharePoint. So our request is actually a choice field because we're going to be choosing from an options of request, and our device type is also a choice field. All right. So if you come back to the app, you can see that Power Apps helps us to create some controls that best work with those particular column types. So what do I mean? Look at the title, you see that it's a text box, right? Just a simple text box. The description is also a simple text box, but we can make it a much bigger text box because it is a multi-line. But currently, by default, it does come in as a simple text box, right? Now, if you remember, I said the request is a choice. See, this is a drop down, and to show you as a drop down, I would make it be like a drop down. You can see that we have some drop down, some options here. All right, so that's one. The device type is also very similar. If you click on that, if you click on that, you can see it's also a choice field. Now you also have attachments. So attachment allows us to attach files to our forms, right? So every SharePoint list has an attachment column, right? You may not see it where I showed you the SharePoint list. It's always hidden, but it is there, and it does come by default in a form. All right. Okay. So that is our forms for now. Now, so we're going to do a couple of things, right? First of all, we're going to look at our description. Now, as I said, okay, so first of all, the form we have to decide right now. So again, remember that I'm selecting the form. So you can see that that's what I'm selected. I'm selected right now, right? So that's okay. Let me go to the um, um, preview. So you can see it's form one, right? That's the mobile form one. Now, if you go to the right panel, one of the options we have is columns, right? So currently we have columns. So columns tells us how many um, controls are on um, that aligned vertically, right? So currently we have three alignments, so three columns. So now, but we want to change, we can change to two, right? So let's change to two. So that will be two columns. So again, you have the freedom to do it as you want to do it. Now let's look at description. So description is a kind of it's a bit small because the user might want to write it with longer text, right? So now what we can do is that we can come down to the height part of this uh, control, right? So now it's currently at 40, so that tells
Hold
us
on,
that
David.
it's about 40.
Hold on a minute, David.
Okay.
So I see that some people are saying that they are lost. The screen is blurry. I just want to quickly address something. So one, the quality of the screen at this point cannot be changed. So I will just say that you bear with us. But for you to get the maximum um result from what David is telling us, from where I stopped yesterday, David has started from there. And the only thing that David has done is that he inserted a form, right, into the screen. So the form into the screen, David has shown us how he brought in those columns. And you can see what is rolling on the screen, right? These are the columns that you should create in your database. So you know we are using SharePoint list, right? So the columns to create, description is a single line of text, result is request is choice type, device is choice. You can see it rolling through, right? So if you have any questions, just drop it in the comment section and I'm there to answer your questions. So David, you can just show us how you added a form to this screen, show us how you brought in or remove a particular column so that we are all on the same page. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, thank you, dear. Okay, so yes, apologies for the screen, but what I'll just do is right, I'll just zoom out a little bit. Right, just give me 1 minute. Okay, so now, so let's go back to adding the form to the screen. So currently I have form one. So what I'll do is that I'll um, remove from one, right? Because I guess that's what I'm going to go back from. So let me just remove it for now. Right, so we'll add it again. Don't worry, you can always add it back. Okay, so I'm going to do, right, is that again, remember that we already have our data source, or I don't know if maybe starting, let's start from adding the data source because again, it's possible that many people were not in the last class. So let's go back to adding the data source, right? So let's start from there. So I want to go to data source, no problem. I will add it again and start from there. Okay, so again, I want to make sure that you can hear me clearly. So now let's start from adding data source. So let's go back. Let's take a step back. Now, number one, go to the data um, part of the app. So click on that. I can add data, right? Now you can go to so you can search for data type. Now since we're adding SharePoint, I can just search for SharePoint. Right, so I can search for SharePoint. Now when I search for SharePoint, I can scroll down a bit to look for SharePoint because there are other options, but this is the SharePoint we're looking for. So we click on SharePoint. Now that takes us to a connection. So connection, just think about the connection as my account, right? So what account do I want to use to connect to the SharePoint? So currently my have well my account has two connections currently, but it's fine. Sometimes you might see one, sometimes it might happen I have two. It's not a problem. You can choose any of them. So I want to choose the first one. So that will give me a panel that's open to the right of the screen. Now I have below here the SharePoint sites that are available. So the way SharePoint works is that it has SharePoint sites. Then under SharePoint sites, we have SharePoint lists. So first of all, I have to pick the SharePoint site before I can pick the SharePoint list. All right. Okay. So I'm going to pick Power's Beginner class because that's the site I've created for this. Okay, so that's going to load the lists. Now I have only one list on the site. Now I have a document. It's called a document library. So it's called documents. So that's different from a list. So I have only one list in this site called Learning Canvas Apps. So I'm going to pick that. I'm going to connect. Okay. All right. So now we have the data source in our app. So again, I'm going to go to insert, right, at the top, and then you can see edit form. So it's called edit form. So you click on edit form. So you click on edit form, it's going to add it to the screen. Right now, you can see it's called edit form 2. So let me go back to this place. It's called edit form 2 because we deleted edit form 1. So it's called form 2 right, rather, but it's still fine. It's the same thing. So you can let's move it again down to the center of the screen. We can now add our data source. So if you go to the right, you can see there's a data source part in the properties pane to the right. And here we can look at the options. We have the data source we've already added to the app. You can click on it. So once you click on it, Power Apps will try to create controls that are related to the columns that are on SharePoint. Right. So it's going to do that in a few minutes. Okay. All right. So now I would expand this a bit. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is that so we said I'm going to make it a two column layout. So choose from the column. I'll add two columns. Okay. All right. So let's take it down a bit. Okay. So this is fine. Now I said the description field is a bit narrow because again it's coming as if it's a single line of text, but we know it's a multi-line of text. So that way we can allow users to add more content. So you click on this, and then we'll go to the height property, which is down here. Currently it's on 40, which is height. So we can increase it to 80. So if you increase it to 80, so that would let it be a bit bigger. Again, we can also come in here and drag it down. So that's another option. So we can drag it down to what we want it to be. So these are just the two options. So you can do a more fine-grained resizing by putting the number or just drag it down. Okay, so that's one step. Now, a couple of things that we for this particular class, we don't need the attachments for now, so we'll take it out. So sometimes you might have controls that you don't need and you want to take it out. So what do? Well, you can come to the controls pane. So under forms, so just to show you, so under forms, if I collapse forms, so I can collapse forms and I can expand it. So you can say, so these controls are called data cards, right? So I'm going to, so each column basically in our SharePoint is represented by a data card. So we have the title data card, we have the description data card, we have the request data card, we have the device type data card, and we have the attachments. So the attachments, I'm going to take it out because I don't need the attachments. So I can delete it if I want to, which is fine. Okay, so we're left with this forms now. Now, what I want to do, right, is that I want to do a couple of things. Um, we have, for the request, we have three options. We have leave, data, and work device. Now, I want us to be able to fill work device, but only when we've chosen, I want us to be able to fill the device type, but only when we've chosen the work device. So therefore, if we choose anything else, we will be hidden, right? So now let's look at the device type control. Right, so this is device type control. So what do we want? We want it to be hidden. Now, normally you can go to the visible property and just hide it like this, right? So you can see it's hidden and we can show it back like this, right? Now, but we don't want to do that based on manual stuff. We want it to be more automated. We want it to be based on the user's interaction with the app, the user selection with the app, right? So what that's what we want. We want it based on the user selection. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to go to the visible property, right? So we can do that on the right side. Another way we can do that is that we can click on the visible label on this particular right panel. Click on the visible label to that will also take us to select the visible as the property to um, customize. Now, so currently, if you look at the formula bar, it is true. Now, remember what I talked about in data types a couple, I think the first class. I talked about Boolean data type. So what did I call Boolean, right? So again, this ties us back to a little bit of data types, which we'll talk about again, right? So now I talk about Boolean in that they have two possible values, right? They're either true or they're either false, isn't it? So they're either true or they're either false. So now we have true, right? So and that's why a switch like this makes sense with visible because you can just click on it and it's like a switch, it goes off, click on it and it goes on. It's true. So you can see as I'm taking it off, it changes to false. So I take it on, it changes to true. Okay. Now, when I'm here, I want this to show only when the user picks the request, the work device request. So how can we do this? Well, there are several ways we can do this, but one of the ways we can do this is to come to the request control, right? So we have the request data type. Now, if you look at the request data type, it actually has or request control rather, it actually has about four controls under it. So one is the start visible, which shows us whether it is required or not. We'll get back to that later. But I think the one that is important for us right now, so just for time, is the data card. So the data card value is the actual drop down that you are going to choose, right? So we also have the label, which is we call it data card key. So that's why it shows us request. But the data card value is the actual control that user are going to be interacting with. It's going to be the drop down, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this drop down. We can come here and click on this to allow us to edit the name, but we'll just copy the name. The reason why is because we're going to reference that drop down in our formula, right? So what we're going to do is that we're going to go back to this device type control, right? Now we're going to say, okay, we want this to be if, so I'm going to use the if function here, right? So So now we're going to talk of functions more, but we have a function, that function that we showed yesterday, right? So we open bracket and close the bracket, right? That's what we need to do first. So if it helps us to check condition, so I'm going to check, we're going to do this based on a condition, right? So what we're going to do is this. We're going to say uh, if the data card dot eight, so that data card value 8 is the drop down for the request part of it. Now I'm going to do dots. So if we do dots again, if you remember, you have some options that comes up. In this case, we have selected items and we have other things. So now I'm going to do selected, right? I'm going to type selected. Okay. So now selected means that what did you select? Is it the first one, the second one, the third one? So what did you select exactly? Now, but apart from that, I'm also going to do another dot again. Don't worry, we'll dive deep into this more. But you then do another dot and you just click the value. So once you do this, this actually references the exact thing you picked in terms of the actual text value. So is it so let's look at the options again before I come back to that. So let's look at the options. So we have leave, data, work. So this will give us either leave, data, or work device, right? So let's go back to the formula. So we are saying now that if this is equals to, now this is what we call the equals operator, to which helps us to compare two values, right? So we are now saying that if whatever we selected is equals to work device, so work device is a text, so we put double quotes, isn't it? So the work device, right? It should be true, else it should be false. That's how the function works. So I'll go through it again to just you know explain it. So first of all, we have the first part of this expression called the condition. So if you look at it, it's called the logical test. There's a hint at the top, but just think about it as a condition. You're trying to test a condition. If the selected value of this data card 8 is work device, then it should be true, else it should be false. So what does it mean to be true? Remember, we're on the visible property. True means that device would show, false means that device would not show. So currently we have a error here, so let's see what the error is about. It's not clear what that is about. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. So yeah, just okay. All right. I think we have okay. So it seems to be giving me an fresh. Okay. All right. So let's test this out. Um, so okay. So one more thing before we do that. Sorry, I forgot to do that. So now, if you look at this form, right? So there's another property I need to talk about. So there's what they call the default mode. So the default mode is tells us what how the form behaves. So the form typically has three modes. So it can be new, it can be edit, and it can be view, right? So currently is on edit. Edit means that we need to be editing an existing row or record in our data source, right? So currently we don't have an existing row because we are just creating a new one. So right now we need it to be new. That's why it shows that it told us that it can't find anything yet. So we need to be new. All right. So okay. So let's see. So let's say select device type. All right. So you can see when we select what device, the device comes up. If we select data, it hides. If we select leave, it hides because we only want to show work device when we select work device. So we can say, so we only want to show device type when we select work device. So now we can select either laptop or desktop. Okay, now let's go back to Studio. So now again, there's still some error here. Still not quite sure what is coming up, but maybe it might just be. Oh yeah. So, but basically, this is the expression for that, right? So, what that means is that the selected value for that data card, if it's equals to work device, then it's true. If it's not, then it's false. So you can see that if I select that, if I put my mouse, my cursor in front of the value, you can see that it's giving me a hint, telling me that the value inside of this control, inside of the property of this control is actually called work device because you can see it's work device. And obviously work device is equals to work device, isn't it? Now if I change it to leave, right? So it's height. If I come back here and I select it, you can see that it tell me leave. So leave and work device is not the same, so therefore it is false. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is that we want to add a button to allow us submit to this form to the back end. So the user fills the form, submits it, and we get it in the back end. Okay. So how do we do that? So we insert a button. So just hold on a minute. Okay. Let's insert a button now. All right. So again, we look at the controls that we can find. So these are some of the most popular controls. So button is one of the most popular one. So let's insert a button. All right. So we can take that down. Yeah. All right. So this button, we're going to allow. So now we have a couple of properties for buttons, but the most important property for button is called onSelect. So if you look at the top left, you can see onSelect. Now, typically, when you select a property or you add a property afresh, it's Power Apps tend to go to the most common property first. So because I added a button, it went straight to onSelect. If I click on a text input property like this to go to default, right? If I click on the text label, right, like let me go to this one for instance, it goes to text. So if I could click on the button, it goes to unselect. That's another tip, right? So unselect. Now, so what does unselect do? Now, unselect is a property that we call a behavior property, right, or event property. So what does that mean? It means that these are the kind of property that come alive when you interact with a control in a certain way, right? So they typically have on in front of them, on select, on reset, but this is called unselect. So unselect means obviously when you click on, when you select the button, when the user selects the button, whatever you write in the formula of the button for that particular property, for that it now runs, right? So that's when they run. So they run based on an event. So for instance, when a user clicks a button. Okay, so what do you want to do when the user clicks this button? Well, we want the user to submit the form. So there's a function called submit form, right? So submit form, right? Sometimes perhaps will give you the option. Okay, so good. So you can just select it, right? You can click on submit form. So open a bracket. Remember, it's a function. We'll dive deep into function very soon. So now you just pick the name of the form two, as the name of the form. I think I misspelled that a bit. But perhaps right. Okay, now that we've submitted the form, now we can now that we have a button wired up, let us change the name of the text on the form. So if you go to the right, you see text property, and you can change the name to submit. Right, so that picks up the of name. Now we have a submit form, right? So we have a submit button. And we can submit a new item. Okay, now we are going to, so this title, another thing I'm going to do is that actually title is supposed to be the name of the employee, right? But I left title because it's the default column in SharePoint. It comes with almost all lists. But you can either use that column or you can change it to something else. right? You can create another column if that doesn't work for you, or you can use the same column but change the name of the column, right? So, but I just decided not to change it, but just it's the name of the employee. So now, let us now run this. So let me put my name. Let me put David A. It's fine. Um, I want to go on leave. So I'm demanding to go on leave, right? So the request type is leave. I can click submit. So when I click submit, it will load and then that will submit the data into it. Now, so it's showing item, no item to display because the form gets to reset itself anytime you submit a new form. But don't worry about that for now. Okay, so now let's go to the data source. So once that is submitted, it will show up here in the data source. So you could refresh it or you could just wait a minute. So you can see that I've submitted my data. So let me zoom in a bit. I don't know if you can see. If you can see that. Sorry. Okay. So you can see now that so the name I put in there under title, description, and the request type. You can see the device type did not have anything because we hid it and we didn't fill that particular field, isn't it? So let us submit another set of forms. So let's go back. Um, sorry. Okay. Let's see if it's okay. So what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to do make some changes, right? I didn't think it was necessary, but I feel we should do it. So now, when a form submits data into a data source, right? Again, I talked about events, isn't it? I talked about when you select a button, what happens. Forms to also have events that are associated with them. We have three events associated with forms. One is called the success event, one is the failure event, and the other one is the reset event. Don't worry about that. But let's focus on the success event. Success event just means that when the form successfully submits your data, so that's an event on the form, right? And you can also write a formula when the event happens, right? So that's what we're going to do now. So if you go to advanced on the tab, selecting a form, you can see there's what they call on success. Remember, I said those events type of form properties are called on something, on this, on that. This is on success. So now I'm going to do a couple of things. Now we're going to, or rather, I think we're just going to do a new form, right? So I'm going to do a new function called new form. So remember, we did submit form. So this is called new form, right? So I'm going to open that. Again, I'm going to reference the form. Now, I'm going to reference form 2 because that's the only form we have. So perhaps it's already open us here. And I'm going to close that. So that allows that whenever you submit a form, it's going to reset the form to a new form, right? So that's why, because when I submitted the form, you could see that it was kind of back to its default state of like the edit form. So this is going to make it to reset to a new form again. So that will allow us to submit again. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select edit, then I'm going to select new again, so it allow us to kind of reset the form a bit. All right. So let's see. Okay. So let's put another person. Let's put let's put a chica. Let's put a chica. Let's put um, I need a laptop. With it, and here and I go to work device, and that gives me the device type. I can now pick laptop, right? And then I can submit. That will submit back into data set, right? And then it will reset the form back to a new form. So that allows me to put another um, data entry. So now let's go back to our SharePoint list. Now in the SharePoint list again, you can refresh it or just wait a bit and you can see that the new data has come. So you can see the name, you can see the description, you can see the request type, and you can see the laptop type already there. So you can see that this is a simple way to create a form that user can interact with and submit to the database. But now that we submitted the form, how can we see what we submitted back into our apps, right? How can we see those things into our app? So we have a couple of ways to do that, right? So now what we're going to do is that we're going to reduce the size of the form just a bit, right? I'm going to reduce it a bit. So, right, okay. So, just see, okay. Okay, so I'm going to insert something else into this page, right? I'm going to insert a gallery. So a gallery allows us to see a list of items in a very ordered way, right? So we are going to come up again to this place. I'm going to insert a vertical gallery. We actually have other types of gallery. We have, basically, we have two types of gallery, vertical and horizontal, but the most common one is vertical. That's why we have it up here. So we're going to insert the vertical gallery. So that allows us to see some of the things that, um, you know, those items that we submitted into our data source, right? So they don't have to go back to SharePoint. So the user can see the feedback. So it submits data, it gets the feedback into the app again. All right. So that just gives just a minute. Let it load. All right. Now left. Okay. So let me move the phone a bit and okay. So I'm going to move this one. Let's align it a bit to the phone. Okay. All right. So now the gallery actually very similar to the form in the sense that it works with a data source. So just the way we connected the data source to the form, that's how we're going to connect the data source to our gallery, right? So if you go to data source now at the left, now currently we have what we call, if you look at the formula bar, all right, we have a custom gallery sample. So that comes with all galleries when you add it for the first time. So it's like a kind of table or it's a local table to the app. It's not in a data source like SharePoint, right? So we can always remove that. So now all we can do is I can click on the drop down. I can click on our data source. So that will load the bits and that will show us some of what we have. So you can see that we have some of the data that we submitted, right? So you can see the first one I submitted, and you can see the second item that I submitted. Let me move the button a bit. Okay, now let's input. Okay, so again, let's say, um, my name is Adebayo. Let's say these are Adebayo Smith, right? Buckets. Okay. Now this time the user wants data. So all right. Now the user submits that into the database. So that's submitted in the database, creates the form, and you can see that our gallery has a new item. Right? So that's how we can view the data source from the app. So we don't have to go back to the data source anymore. You can view it in the app. Now, if you look, let's look at our gallery just a bit again. Right? So now this gallery we've added to the screen. Right? If you look at it at to the left again, you can see it's called gallery one. Again, there are some controls that have like controls that are under them, like a you can call them like a compound control. They have other controls under them. We saw that in the forms, we saw that in the data cards. The gallery is similar to that. So if you expand the gallery, if you look at that arrow, you can see that there's some things inside of the gallery. The first one is a rectangle one. So rectangle one is can sit at this place here. We also have separator one. We'll talk about them more. We have next arrow key. So let me go back a bit. Okay, so the next arrow, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's there. And we have the subtitle. It's a text label. We have a title. It's also a text label, right? And then we have the image. So in case if our data source has an image, we can also show there. Now our data source does not have an image, so we can remove it if we want to, but let's just keep it for now. Now the thing about gallery, right, is that it is a control that allows us to show items in a data source, especially a tabular data source, in a row by row, right? And or in a repeated fashion. So therefore, we only have one set of control for every for all the items that can be in a gallery. So what do I mean? There might be 100 items in the gallery, but let's assume we have one control, say a text label, to show the title column, right? That text label in our controls panel will only show once. You can select it once, but it would work for all the 100 items. So basically, it's going to be as you are selecting only the control for the first item, but it's the same thing for everything. So whatever you do for the first control will affect every other control in that gallery, even or every other item in that gallery. So currently, our gallery has three items, but if you look at it, I'm selecting the image one, but you can see that if you look closely, it's only the image on the first on the first being selected, isn't it? So whatever I do for that image affects the other ones. So let's look at something. So for instance, if I go to subtitle, right, I can say that now if I select subtitle again, you can see that the text is the property I selected first, right? So I can go to the formula and say, okay, this is showing the description because it's showing the description. Now, how do we know it's showing the description? Now, there's a property called, or there's a reference. It's called a reference, but it's called this item. So, what does this item mean? This item is referencing a particular item or a particular row in our table. You know? So, remember that our gallery is connected to our data source, which is our learning apps list. So, this is it, our learning canvas apps list. So, for each item, right, we can reference a particular column. So, we'll say something like this item dot title. If you want to reference this particular, or if you want to reference the title for every item or for a particular item. If you want to reference the description for a particular item, we say this item dot description. Now, this item can be any of the item, right? It can be any of the item. But remember that when we work with a gallery, right, we can only work with one item at a time, but it will work for all the items once we make our change, isn't it? So I say that whatever item you are, whether you're the first item, the second item, you're the third item, it doesn't matter. We want to talk about your description column. We want to talk about your request column. We want to talk about your data type column, right? So that's how we do it. So if you come here, currently, what we are saying is that for this particular control, we are referencing the description column for this item, right? Or the description field. So sometimes we use field, right? For this item. Now we want to reference the request type instead. So what I'm going to do is that we're going to go to this place. I'm going to type request. There you go. The request column is not a text column. Remember, I talked about column types, right? Single line of text, multiple line of text, choice type. Request is a choice type because it's a choice type. It will not work very well with a text label, just like that, right? You need to do something extra. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to now do dots. I'm going to have what we call value. So value is representing the actual choice that we made, right, in our form, whatever form we fill, both the second time we fill the form and the third time we fill the form. So I'm going to click on value. Now that value is actually text type, so it's going to work perfectly fine in a text label. So you can see leave, work device, and data. So those are the choices we made in those three forms, right? I can say I only did it for one of the label. So you can say it affected every single item in that gallery, right? Okay. So now that is a gallery. Another thing we can do with gallery is that we can change the layouts. We have the image, title, subtitle layout. We have some layout options, right? So currently we can say, okay, we don't have an image that I want to show in this gallery. We can show title, subtitle, and body. So we click on that, you have this. Okay, so just give it a minute, let it change that. We have the name of the person, we have the request type, and we have the description. So exactly what it's doing for us. So again, let's go back to the gallery and look at it. So the gallery has three text labels. One is a title, which by the way is not necessarily related to the title column. It's just the way they named it, right? So it's called title two, right? It doesn't matter. So title two, but it's also showing. You can see the formula bar. This item dot title, right? Then we have subtitle, which is currently showing our selected request, isn't it? So this item dot request dot value, right? So the dot value is representing the actual choice that we made there. And then the body is in this item dot description. All right, so that is how gallery works. So now let's fill a form. Okay, I think we've already filled the form already and showed you guys. So I think for now let's ask let me see if maybe any feedback from you guys in terms of what you've learned so far, in terms of the form, in terms of the gallery. We've done a very simple app to allow the users to, put in some information in the database, and we can see it back in our app, right? So let us say in the comments what do you guys think about the gallery and the form.
So, David, so what we
Is it
currently
as
have
simple
right
as
now.
you thought it to be? Is it simpler than you thought it to be? Or what do you think? So just let us know in the comment section what do you think about forms and galleries.
All right, so David, so what we currently have right now, people are actually following and everything is good on this end, but they were asking, somebody was asking if we can create the same gallery on another page. All right, so I already answered that, but you can just create another screen and put the gallery there so that they can replicate the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, that's good. So what we're going to do? Okay, we are going to put the gallery there, right? We're going to create on that screen. That's fine. Let's collapse this one. So again, like I said, this screen has a lot of controls, so I have to collapse it a bit. So I'm going to add a new screen. All right. So let's do that. Okay. So now, I don't know. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. So we're going to have a blank screen for now. We can have some nice template screen, but for now, I just need to have a blank screen. So a blank screen there. We're going to rename it and call it I can call it gallery screen or call it detailed screen. Gallery screen, right? Okay, good. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to let's add another um, gallery. Or we could even copy the one that was in the other screen, right? No, let me show you how to do that. We'll use it. We'll use the one of the other screen, right? Since we want to separate it to two screens, let me show you how to do that. So first of all, let's form because it's opening quite a lot of controls. So that way we can see our gallery much easier. Now I'm going to select our gallery. It's selected now. We can click on these three dots. So that gives us more options. Now I have a couple of options here. One of them is copy, one of them is cut, one of them is delete, one of them is rename. What I'm interested in now is we're going to just cut it. So just like cut and paste, right? I'm going to just cut it. I'm going to cut our gallery, like Control X, right? And we'll go to our form, and we can just paste our gallery here. So we have a paste. So we just paste it, and it's just going to be on this screen. Okay, all right. So now, okay, so let's give it a minute. Let it load the data. Okay, great. So I'm going to take it to. So apart from dragging the gallery, right, you can also control the X and Y properties. I don't know if this was mentioned yesterday. So if I want to make it to the top of the screen, top left. So X is talking about the. Uh, I'm looking. I'm forgetting a bit of my graphs in mathematics. So I think X is the vertical axis, right? And Y is the horizontal axis. Yes. All right. So basically, X is saying where do we want to position our control on the um, horizontal axis. I hope I'm getting it right. For the horizontal, so that's the X, right? So the horizontal, so between left to right, basically, right? So now I want to position it at maybe 10 units or 10 pixels uh, to the left. So starting from the left side of the screen, right? So 10 away, and then I want to position it 10 or let's say 40 from the top, right? So from the top down, so 40, right? So 10, 40. Good. So now we have our gallery previous screen. So what we're going to do, we're going to make our font to be a bit bigger again, right? So we squeeze it to accommodate the. Sorry, I'm trying to check something. So squeeze it to accommodate the uh, gallery. We can make it. Maybe you can just make this one like um, maybe 1,000. So 1,000 means that how wide is it going to be, right? So 1,000 is a bit wider. Okay, so it'll be wider. Let me see. Yeah, so this guys needs to be uh, yeah, we need to get with the program. So I'm just going to do something quickly, just to make it easy for us. So I'm going to turn on width fits, but when we're doing forms very deep that we talk about width, but I stretch it and let it stretch. So I need to stretch it just to make it quick. Okay, so now we have a form here. Well, we're going to do a couple of things. Now, once this form is filled, if you go to the success, remember the unsuccess. Go to the unsuccess, we did a new form, so that allows us to fill a form. But what we're going to do now is that, yes, we're going to still make a new form. We are going to navigate to the other screen, right? So that means that once we fill the form, we want to go to the other screen and see the new item in the gallery, right? So go to navigate. So now again, I'm going to talk about something a bit. Now, in some properties, right? Not all properties, but the especially the one um, with the on properties, right? If you can write an expression and just below it you can write another expression immediately. So when you write an expression, you end it with a semicolon, right? And then you can start on a new line and write another one, right? Or you can start by the side after the semicolon, but typically a new line, right? So we're going to navigate to the other screen. Now we call that screen gallery screen. We're going to write gallery. So hopefully Power comes to the rescue and gives us an option and we have gallery screen. So click on it and then we just close that, right? So that means that once we fill the form, it's successful, we go to the gallery screen, right? So that's what it means. Simple as that. Okay, so now let's add a new item to the form. Okay, so I'm going to add, I'm going to just go to use my name. And this time I want the desktop, powerful desktop, right? Uh, so occupies picking desktop, uh, right? And then let's click on submit. So again, it submits to the data source, and this time it will take us to the new screen and add our new entry into the gallery. So you can see we have our new entry in the gallery, right? Which is this one. So that's this just an intro into forms and gallery, just to show you how you can allow users to add input into the data source. I can see the data source, the entry to data source from the gallery, right? So I think we'll stop here for now. Again, so this is just a way to allow you to appreciate how easy it is to wire up a form, how easy it is to wire up a gallery or a kind of a list of items, right, based on the data source that's inside of a gallery. So we'll stop it for now, and we'll continue. So thank you very much. I hope you guys have learned a lot. We've covered forms, we've covered submit form, we've covered how to create reset the new form. We've covered what happens, how to react to when certain things happen, right? So some might be user interaction, like clicking a button. Some might be a form that is responding to a success state. So you submitted the form is telling you that, oh, I've been able to successfully submit the form. So what do you need to do now as a developer? So now that form is successfully submitted, you need to react to that event. So we've seen an introduction to some of those things already. So on success of the form, we're able to navigate to a, a screen. Now let's assume, for instance, let me give you an example. Or let or just or know what? in the comments, what if the form failed to submit? Now remember that we have some other on properties of the form. We have on failure. What can you do with the on failure? If the form fails to submit, what can you do? Just let your imagination think about it, right? So if a form fails to submit, what can you do that might help the user, right? On failure of a form, what could you possibly do? You can put that in the comments. So this is what we've learned today. Thank you very much. All right, so I'll hand over to Lola now.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So I am a developer, right? As I was there, I have learned so many things because there are some things that I do in a different way, right? So David, I've been able to pick some things from you, and right, I've been able to see how you do things on your own side. Because as a developer, one of the things that interests me is how do other people write their code? How do other people, put some things together? And it's so interesting watching you guys. I've seen and I've answered a lot of questions. I've seen that people today really enjoyed your class, David, and they were able to pick a lot of things. They were able to, get things. The only way you can repay us, guys, is by what? By doing these things. So you have your developer account. Do this, and in fact, David just asked us a question, or he just told us something. He said, on failure, you need to think. On success, I've said do these things. Now on failure, what should happen? So we want you to get creative. Do that on your own. Okay, so Pius is saying on failure, probably show us why the form failed, right? You can do that, but you can also add, there are other things you can add, right? So I want you to do the research. Also, the gallery screen that you created, remember that we are using blue, the light blue. So you can change your background, do something interesting, and ensure that you are learning. So Abubakar is saying that check if there's an error from the input, then notify the user. Awesome, that is true. Submit it, but there are so many things you can do. So Baya is saying on failure, we can also use notifications also. Yes. So when it fails, you can use a notification that will tell you, oh, this form has failed, so that people will not just assume that the form has submitted to the database when it has failed. So that's awesome. But we want you to try it out. All these things you've said, try it out and let us see what happens after that. So when we come tomorrow, sorry, tomorrow is Sunday. We are not coming tomorrow. Tomorrow is for you to actually practice everything that we have done from day 1 to day 3. The videos are there for you on demand for you to go and watch. So when we come on Monday, we want you to come and throw questions and learn again, because Monday the train has moved, right? So Monday we are diving deeper. There are so many things that we want to show you. So imagine if we built an app to this point today. What are we going to do on Monday? So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to join us on Monday, and we are diving deeper. For all the people that have issues with messages and all of that, we're going to send you messages. We're going to send you more things for you to practice with. Thank you so much. And this is a bye from I and David. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. And we'll see you again on Monday.
Thank you.